Welcome, everybody. My name is Bhavani Krishnan, and I'm an Agile coach focusing on improving org agility at Agile Velocity. I have two more people with me today, so let's start with David.
Hi, my name is David Pointer. I'm an enterprise Agile coach at Agile Velocity, and I've been doing this for about 20 years. Josh?
And my name is Joshua Meriyah. I am the principal software engineer at Path to Agility, which is the partner company with Agile Velocity. And we put out the software that helps you to improve your teams, improve your organization, learn how agile you are, and how you can get better at doing agile.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So in the last video, both Josh and I introduced the topic of team health as everyone's business. And as we promised, we're going to be continuing a series of small deep dive topics that will focus on improving team health in an organization. So today, our topic is psychological safety. Now, when we talk about psychological safety, it is crucial for the success and high performance of any team. And it refers to the shared belief that the team and it's a safe place for interpersonal risk-taking, where team members feel comfortable expressing themselves and sharing ideas and their thoughts without fear of being judged or negative consequences, right? That's just the bottom line, and everybody knows that. So today we hope to talk to you a little bit more about the significance of the psychological safety, and also some of the strategies to enhance the psychological safety, right? So with that, we want to talk about, we want to start with the significance of it. When we think of the significance of psychological safety, some things that stands out to me are, it encourages open communication, promotes innovation and creativity, and Josh, we were talking about it earlier. I mean, innovation area is one that you hold pretty close to your heart, being that senior software engineering perspective. Do you want to talk a little bit more about it?
I think, it's certainly very closely related in terms of innovation, but I think that's innovation is kind of a byproduct of other things, right? So safety means that I can, if I screw up, people are going to be understanding, they're going to work with it. Like we have what I call a culture of error. So when I actually used to be a teacher, and it was a huge thing within a classroom. It's a question of, okay, does a student feel safe to give a wrong answer, right? Because, you have a lot of classrooms where it's like, hey, you get the wrong answer, like, you could be shamed for that, right? Like, but the best classrooms are where, hey, we love it when you give a wrong answer, right? Because it really lets us see how we're thinking about this. And we can't really teach you if we don't know how you're thinking about it currently, right? And so I need to know what you're thinking, and to know that you have to feel safe to tell me what you're thinking, and that I'm going to be really appreciative of it and hold you up for being brave enough to say an answer, and really support that of, hey, like, we take risks. We are okay if they fail, we learn from them, we grow from them, and they help us all. And so having that, yes, we can take those risks, we can try new things, and everyone can feel better about the environment, and everyone feels supported to be where they are and not have to, put on some kind of phony thing where you hide, what could actually be beneficial to the company.
So you talked a few things there, right? You talked about trust and transparency. You talked about enhancing the learning area or the learning environment so that people in that environment can thrive and develop. And all of that kind of goes along the significance of the psychological safety. There's also the other part of it where the importance not only talks about the innovation, it not only talks about the trust and transparency, but it also reduces burnout and attrition, right? It also addresses conflicts effectively. It also supports diversity and inclusion. And David, from a coaching perspective, we talk a lot about, and we coach a lot about the intrinsic motivation of knowledge workers, right? So all of that kind of plays along. Do you want to talk a little bit more about those?
Absolutely. back when a lot of organizations did waterfall, the idea of being a cog in a machine is what people thought their job was like. But the idea of being able to actually come into an organization and affect change and be vocal about it and say things that actually really help you drive your feeling of accomplishment, your ideas of self-value and organizational value, helps you be able to build on that and do better things for the company. If a company allows people to be able to have that breathing room to be inventive and take some risks, it really does help build strong core values for an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we talked about the importance or the significance of psychological safety. Now, how do we actually improve or ensure there is psychological safety at work? So we talked about some of the ideas or strategies to enhance those, right? One of the first ones that I can think about is leading by example. When we go talk to the leaders of any level or any kind, this is the first thing that we recommend, is to demonstrate and show vulnerability and openness as a leader. Share your challenges and relate to how you addressed those challenges, so that people in your organization can relate to those, right? And that creates an atmosphere that encourages others to do the same without any fear of repercussion or without any fear of being judged for whatever reason. So that's one of the first things that we recommend as strategies to enhance those. Josh or David, what would you recommend?
Actually, I have a great example of that. I was working in an organization and they brought in a VP from outside the organization. He came in and thought that he just knew what needed to be solved. He didn't ask any questions. He just came in with a big hammer, swinging that hammer and making decisions based on what he thought he perceived. Didn't ask anybody else's opinion. He was there for a little while, then left. But they brought another leader in and he said, for the first 90 days, I'm not going to do anything, change anything, or even think about changing anything. What I want to do is talk to everybody. And because of that, he came in and learned and got other people's perspective and found out what was going on. He wanted to not come in and just rock the boat or make his mark. He wanted to actually see at every level, because I even had an interview with him and I was a new person at the company. But the idea that we actually were able to talk to him, tell him what we thought were the problems and the opportunities with the organization really helped tie us to him and also give him a chance to be able to show that he really cares. And that builds that relationship of trust within the organization.
So that's not only leading by example, but this is the other strategy to enhance it, right? Is establishing those feedback channels. And even at Agile Velocity, we do that, right? I mean, we consider feedback as a gift and we have regular channels for collecting feedback. Some of them are informal, some of them are formal, and we ensure specific feedback so that it can be constructive and it can be focused more on behaviors rather than personalities. So I see that you kind of combine leading by example and taking and receiving feedbacks, and then also assessing and providing that space for people so that they can feel safe enough. So yeah, great. Josh?
Yeah, I think that's all really, really valuable and important. And I think, there's the leader is always going to set the tone, right? And so if the leader shows, hey, yes, I do make mistakes and this is how I handle it. When I do, I own it. I can tell everyone this is what I did and this is how I'm taking the steps to make that right. And then when someone on the team makes a mistake, then it's the leader that can say, hey, I've actually done that before too. And so normalizing it and so supporting, the team to feel safe that they can do those kind of things. And so, because the scariest thing is when someone makes a mistake and doesn't tell anyone. And that happens all the time because you're scared what happens if anyone finds out. And then a small mistake becomes a huge mistake. Whereas as soon as we learn from a mistake, there's really opportunity for growth and for really taking the company or the team or whatever level you're at to a new level. I think that's huge. And I think, it's an opportunity for a leader at whatever level to really show and set that tone that's going to provide that safety.
Yeah, and along those same lines, clearly communicating expectations for behavior and performance would also foster a culture of, people understanding, okay, here's the expectation from me, from my organization, for my perspective or my role. And that sets the tone from a leadership perspective, where they're creating that environment, not only of clarity, but also helping people understand where they need to grow a little bit more, right? And when they see that there's clear expectations and communication around those, they can be more vulnerable about, okay, here are the areas where I need help, or here are the areas where I think I can excel. And that also creates an environment of safety. So yeah, absolutely. Anything else y'all can think of?
Maybe just one thing I'd like to add to that, and I think it goes along with everything. I mean, I think we put these categories, but in general, like psychological safety is just, hey, like, it's people on this team are here to support us, right? They're here to, we get feedback just because they're here to support us and they want us to be better, and that's how it's given. And the team wants everyone to be successful, and that's got to be felt. I think one of the stories I would tell, I think that illustrates a lot of this is, I was in an organization, and I was, at the time, I was a developer, and I was one of the developers that was cranking out a lot of code, like doing a lot for the company. And they switched me to another team, and I was unsure of some of the practices, and I tried to talk to the team leader and say, hey, I think there's some things here we could do to improve. And the team leader at that point, interestingly, didn't talk directly to me about my ideas, didn't deal with them on the team level. So it wasn't like, hey, we kind of bring things, we work them out, we work things together. Took the ideas and complained to management that I was telling them, these other things that I thought we could do. Management then comes to me and says, like, you're not going to do things this way. And it was like, okay, it was nice working for you. Because like, if you don't feel like your team is there to support you and like trying, like, doesn't mean you have to go with everyone's ideas, but hey, like, we're going to deal with it. We care about you. We want to hear you, and we want to work it out, versus like, we're going to kind of go up the chain to bring it back down to you. That's, those are really, really integral to psychological safety.
And I think if I were to put a label on that, that would be more of addressing conflicts constructively, right?
Right. Exactly.
Bring up an idea, it didn't sit well with them, then you don't go up the chain by you. I mean, it necessarily, it's or technically it's kind of like a conflict, right? You have a varying idea than the other person, but then, in a team where you want your employees to feel safe, you address that constructively versus coming down with the hammer. And the other thing I can think of along those lines is you should be celebrating success and learn from failures versus, to say, all right, Josh came from the other team. Here are the things that he had accomplished. Let's celebrate those. And, if he's identifying certain areas for improvement, let's not see those as failures, but those are, opportunities for us to improve on. So yeah, you unpacked a lot in there.
And that's also an example of sort of that, when you have environments that are very command and control, if you don't want to answer the question or even deal with it, you're handing it off to somebody else to be able to resolve that. So you're not building trust between your direct leader and the team by just saying, oh, well, I'm not going to handle that. I'm going to pass it on to somebody else and have them come back and deal with that person. No trust at all built into that relationship.
All right, so there you go, folks. We talked about psychological safety, the importance of it, and then we shared some examples or strategies to enhance psychological safety in your team.